This week's edition of Church Media Design TV is sponsored by Clark and Awake Images. Welcome to another edition of Church Media Design TV, tips, tricks, and how-to for you, the Church Media Designer. I'm your host, Brad Zimmerman, and I am joined every week by my favorite bobbleheaded friends. You got it right. We got Jamie and Adam from the Mythbusters, we got Dwight Schrute from The Office, we got Little Whitey, the miniature version of me, and of course, Jesus Christ, the Son of the Lord Most High. Well, on this week's edition, it has been snowing like crazy by me. We had a very plain Jane New Year, but the snow is finally coming back, and I've been seeing flurries outside my window. So I thought I would show you guys how to make snow inside After Effects with no third-party plugins. This is all built in, as well as we're going to show you how to do custom particles and all sorts of interesting things, so you can use this for way more than snow. As well as we have a bunch of resources and some free stuff. So there's a whole lot going on today. We don't have anything about CES 2011. That's going on right now. Curious if there's any announcements that were made there that will really impact the church. Sometimes they do, sometimes they don't. But again, I just want to set a precedent about what this is all about. This show is all about how to use media to increase God's kingdom. This isn't about the latest tricks or tutorials or any of that kind of stuff. We want to use this medium to increase God's kingdom. So we're going to find all the media around us, all the resources we have, and we're going to use them to the best of our ability to help share the most important story, and that is the story of Jesus Christ. So I just want to remind us of that. I don't want to get caught up in the technology, but just remember what this is all about. So if my favorite bobbleheaded friends are ready, let's get into it. Well, today I have some news for you, and this may be news that none of you will use, or it may be something that a lot of you use, but I'm going to try to educate you in the process. Many of you have maybe heard this term CDN. Now, CDN is a content distribution network, and basically what it is you upload a file into the cloud, into a server, and it immediately gets spawned off into multiple other servers around the world and around the country. So let's say you had some content that isn't downloading fast enough for your end user. You want to make sure it's available for all those people as fast as possible. A CDN is what you want to use for that. Now, Media Temple just launched their Pro CDN, so introducing Pro CDN. Now, if we scroll down here, you can see some of the partners that they already have, like jQuery and Rip Curl and some different companies. But what they have here is 19 global points of presence, with increased SEO performance, full control panel, 200 gigs of monthly network transfer. This is a really cool thing that you could check out. It starts at 20 bucks a month. So if you're wanting to speed up downloads of large files or not have to have all of your files, let's say you have podcast files or video files that you host on your church's website, and you don't want to bog up all your space and use all your bandwidth for your normal hosting package, hosting all those files, you can put those on a CDN, they'll download faster, and then you have separation between the files and then the actual site itself. So might be interesting to some of you. I wanted to let you know about it because there's a lot of CDNs out there, but this one's through Media Temple, and they're my hosting provider, and they may be yours as well. So it's just something to check out. So if you're looking for a CDN, you might consider Pro CDN. Well, let's reach into the stockpile and grab some great resources for you and your church. And the first one comes from Adobe, and it's about the Adobe Creative Suite. Now, in CS5, they upgraded to 64-bit. I talked about this last week. I named CS5 as my #1 thing for church media in 2010. But they switched over to 64-bit, and in that transition, now you can use tons of RAM. You have all these CPUs that you can use now with the i7 processors and quad-core processors and all that kind of stuff. Well, a lot of people have been asking questions to Adobe of how do I get the maximum results for my processor and for my RAM. And so their engineers went through and figured out what the best situation is, because believe it or not, the best situation isn't saying After Effects use all of my RAM and use all of my processors. You actually want to give and take and save some things, because it actually can become less efficient to use all of them. So on this post, and I'll have a link in the show notes for this, you can see all the different preferences. And what they did is they put this little chart together of how much RAM you have installed, how much RAM you should leave for other applications, and then how much you should have per CPU. So I have 12 gigs of RAM installed, so I should leave 4 for other applications and have a minimum allocated of 2 gigs. So I'm going to change these settings, and hopefully I'll notice a change. But if you're wondering how to get the best bang for your buck out of CS5, I encourage you to check out this post. Now, the next one is for those of you who can't afford their own copy of After Effects or Premiere, the Creative Suite, or you have people around you who keep bugging you about getting something to edit their videos with. Now, this isn't the best situation, but it is a great one for free, and it's called J-Cut. Now, J-Cut, you can see here, is your free video editor online. So it's an online video editor. This was created inside Flash, so it uses all of those capabilities, and Flash has come a long way, so there's a lot of capabilities now. So the new release of J-Cut just came out. It's now available in 10 languages. You can do webcam and voiceover, plus you can bring in your own videos from your computer, and you can one-click distribute to YouTube, which is pretty cool. They also have slow motion effects, green screening, drawing and annotation tools, and customize and colorize. So a lot of different things you can do with this tool. It's a really great one, but I wouldn't say this is your choice for editing video on a weekly basis, but this might be what you should tell someone in your church who bugs you about, hey, can you edit this video for me? And you really don't want to because it's gonna be a pile of poo and you just really don't want to deal with it. You can send them to J-Cut and they can take care of it there. The next two sites are new blogs that I want to encourage you guys to follow. They've been around for a while. I've been following them, but a couple interesting posts and reasons why I wanted to point them out to you. The first one is from Joshua Blankenship, and he works for New Spring Church in South Carolina. And he did a post on 50 States meme on Dribbble. Now, if you're not familiar with Dribbble, Dribbble is a show and tell website of work you're working on or have done for other designers. And a Salt Lake City-based designer, Jeff Kral, posted his shot of his home state, just a quick little design he did of Utah. And he said, where are you from? And over 400 people responded to this post with some really amazing designs. You can check them out here. You know, we have a couple from Texas and DC and New York and Colorado. I like the Minnesota typeface and all of that stuff. Really cool uses of typeface, really simple designs, usually like a whitish colored text with a simple background that feels a little retro. My favorite one from my home state was done by Ryan S. Maker, and I'm from Michigan, so the Great Lakes state, and I just think it's a really cool retro feeling. I love this Michigan typeface. Really nice. I wish you would tell me what typeface it is. But so that's that one. So check out Joshua's site. The next one is from Michael Jones, and it's the Render Time blog, and he works for Manna Church in North Carolina, and has been putting a ton of freebies as well as really cool behind the scenes look on his site. So you can check out here. We have you know, some Cinema 4D models. We have, you know, this guitar. We have a microphone, as well as like he put together this student conference video and gave away the TV model that he used. So some cool stuff there, as well as he has a behind the scenes section of the site, and you can see like the resolution photo shoot, and you can see, you know, what that shoot looked like and how they were doing it. And then you can also see color grading of that shoot, so you can see before and after, as well as the presets that he used inside Final Cut, which I think is really cool that he's actually showing you this is exactly how I did it. As well as he did another shoot here for the Kingdom, and you can see some before and after images and how he used color correction really to give this footage some new life and some really great style. And we're going to be talking about color correction and color grading here in the future, but I encourage you to check out all of these websites, and you can find the links in our show notes at cmd.tv/121. Well, before we move on, let's say thank you to our sponsors, and our first sponsor is Clark. Now, you may know Clark as the hologram guys. We've talked about holograms in the church here on the show from the Story Conference and from the interview we did at their studio. You may also know of them as the people who've done installs in churches like North Point and done crazy video venues and all this kind of stuff. But Clark is way more than mega churches and holograms. They specialize in strategy and facility planning and audio, video, and lighting for the local church. And I said local church, not just mega church. And what separates Clark from the rest is their long track record in this field. Clark's expert team of facility planners and engineers can help your church design great-looking, functional, and cost-effective spaces. So if you head over to their website, clark.is, you can find out a ton more there, as well as great articles about things they're doing in local churches. You can see all of their work there. So if you're looking into doing new construction or facility upgrades, make sure to check out clark.is. We also want to say thank you to Awake Images. Now, Awake Images have been creating modern artistic worship backgrounds for the church, and they've been doing this for over 5 years. Now, this content is perfect for triple wide setups, whether you have 3 separate screens or you're doing environmental projection where you're projecting all over your building and setting crazy new moods and atmospheres in your spaces. Crazy in a good way. And they also have 16:9 content as well. So if we head over to their website, you can see they have tons of volumes with over 400 images in each volume. A couple of my favorites are Sacred Panoramas with 152 panoramic visuals, so 3 images per panorama. Another panoramic volume, and just imagine projecting on your space and setting this new mood and new atmosphere during a drama or during your teaching, and really helping set this atmosphere for those things. So their first volume is always free, so you can get their first volume of images totally free, as well as if you buy anything on their website, if you use the promo code of CMDTV at checkout, you're going to get 40% off. So I want to encourage you guys to head over and check out awakeimages.com. Well, today we're going to be talking about creating snow. Now, at my office, I sit and stare at snow all day long, and it's really interesting how that snow moves and falls, and we're going to try to realistically, or as realistically as we can, recreate that motion and try to do that inside After Effects without any third-party plugins. I don't want to make you guys have to go get Particular from Red Giant or something like that. We're going to use all the built-in stuff inside After Effects because it has everything we need. Now, we're going to be talking about particles and particle systems as we do this. So this can apply to things like rain or water or fire or clouds or star systems, all sorts of different things. So a lot of different things, as well as we're going to be looping this. We're going to be talking about how to loop particle systems. We've talked about this in the past, but we're going to get a refresher again on it today. So let's jump inside After Effects and check this out. So inside After Effects, we have our blank project here. I'm just going to right click and I'm going to do new composition. We're just going to call this our snow loop. And I'm going to make sure this is set to 30 frames per second, not 29.97 or 59.94, 30 frames per second. It's just going to make it a lot easier to loop, that sort of thing. And then I'm setting my duration to 31 seconds, just so I have an extra second to deal with of overlap and that sort of thing. So 31 seconds, you could set it to 30 if you want to, and we're going to hit OK. So now I'm going to right click and do a new solid. Again, everything in After Effects and in most programs is a right click away, so I use it a lot. We're just going to make this black solid and we'll call this our system. So here is our layer that our particle system will be placed on, because your particle system is an effect that gets applied to a layer. So we're just going to make this blank black layer to apply to. So now I'm going to go up to window, and I'm going to pull up my effects controls, and I'm going to right click in here, and I'm going to go down to simulation to CC particle world. Now this is the built-in particle system inside After Effects that we get to use. And this really can do everything that Particular does for the most part, except it's got some weird controls. Things don't make sense. It's not, you know, things aren't in seconds sometimes or in frames or anything like that. They're these weird odd measurements that don't really make a whole lot of sense sometimes, but we can still make it look the way we want to. So as you can see here, if I scrub through my timeline, it's making this, you know, fountain of yellow to orange lines. And this is the default look of this particle system. So the first thing we're going to do is just kind of look through here and talk about the particle system itself, and then we're going to make it look the way we want it to. So the first thing we have is our birth rate and our longevity. So birth rate is how many particles are being born per second. But again, the birth rate isn't in seconds, and it's not actually particles, it's just a number. So I'd like to think of it as 2 particles per second, but that's not true. So, so that's our birth rate, and then we have longevity, which is actually in seconds. So how long do the particles last on screen before they disappear? And these just have sliders attached to it. However, the producer we can flip down, and this has the position and the radius of the producer, where these particles are being born from. So what we're going to do is we're going to first off make our producer a little wider. So we're going to take our X and we're going to just scale this guy out so our producer is a little wider, and then we're going to, you know, make it a bit deeper as well. And then I'm going to take the Z position, just pull it away from the camera, because we can use 3D cameras in this. We're not going to today, but you can pull that away, and then we're going to move this up so it's starting at the top of our screen and all of our particles are being born and flowing down. So, you know, we have some interesting, weird looking rain stuff. I mean, you could make this into a background if you wanted to, but it looks a little funny to me. You can see a grid here and a position. We can actually turn those things off. So we can go to off and it just won't show that stuff anymore for us. So now that stuff's off. Now we can go down to the next thing, because if we would do a preview, if I hit B on my keyboard and N on my keyboard, and I just hit and then 0 on my number pad, it's going to go through and do a RAM preview of this. So B sets the beginning of your work area and N sets the end, and then 0 on the number pad is going to preview every frame, while Shift 0 is going to do every other frame. And this is just a way to do quick RAM previews to see what your project's looking like. It's actually going through and doing all of the rendering right now. So as you can see here, we have a little bit of a preview of what it looks like, but you can see it's falling fast. This looks like a torrential downpour. So we really need to take this and make it look more like snow, light, fluffy drops that aren't going too crazy fast. So now we need to move down to our next thing of physics. Now, don't get scared by physics. I hated physics in high school. I didn't really even take it because it scared me so much. But this kind of physics isn't too bad. So we have a few different things, and really need to go from top down in this area here. So the first one is our type of animation. So explosive, directional on an axis. We have cone axis. We have viscosive or twirl or twirly. Or we have vortex, we have fire, which you won't even see because it's going upwards. We have jet sideways, fractal omni, and fractal uni. The one that when I was messing around, that I liked the best, because snow kind of has this way of moving around that kind of floats all over the place, I found twirly to be the best one. So we're going to use twirly today. And we're going to leave the velocity at 1, and that's actually the velocity. If I would turn this down to 0, you would notice, so let me just type in 0. You would notice that there's not much twirl. Everything ends up going straight. So we want to leave that at 1, and that gives it the twirl or the explosiveness. But the big problem here is our gravity is way too high. So what we need to do is we need to kick this way down, down to around 0.03 or 4. And then we can actually take our birth rate and turn that down a little bit. And we'll turn up our longevity to, you know, maybe 5, let's say. And now if we do a quick RAM preview, you'll see it's moving really fast, but there's not as many particles on the screen. Now the reason it looks so crazy is because of a couple other things here. We have extra and extra angle. Now the extra and extra angle have to do with our animation type. So what I'm going to do is take my extra angle, and this is how much it's spinning, and I'm going to turn this way back to maybe, you know, 15 degrees, maybe 20 degrees. And now if we do that RAM preview, you'll see we have something that resembles much more like snow. Now we can change what this particle looks like, but right now I'm just trying to get the snow effect and the snow vibe. And you're really starting to get it. We have a little bit too much going on here at the top, which means we really need to take our position of Y and move it up a little bit higher so that when we don't really see any of this generation going on. There's still a little bit too much there, so I'm going to move this a little bit higher yet. And now if we preview it, everything looks pretty normal as it comes into the scene. So we're starting to get a nice effect here. Now the next thing we need to do is continue moving down this stack, and we're going to move to our particle. And this is the best way to work with it. Sometimes you want to change your particle first, but I've found if you just work through the layers or the order of the plugin, you're going to be able to get everything set up, and then you can plug in your particle later. So right now we're set to line, but we could, like, you know, change this to stars and see what that looks like. And we may find out that we need more things in the scene, or that we're too close, you know, with these big ones floating in front of us. So you can always go back in the order. But what we're going to do is we're going to use a custom particle. So to do that, we first need to make that custom particle. So I'm going to go up to Composition, New Composition. We're going to call this Snow. And I'm going to go in here and I'm going to set the width to 40 and the height to 40. So it's a 40 by 40 square. And when you're using custom particles, you really want to keep the size of these particles small. And we'll use the same frame rate and same frame duration. Now I'm going to zoom in here. And what we're going to do is, I'll pull this up a little higher so you can see. We're going to do New, and then we're going to do Shape Layer. Now we've talked about shape layers in the past. But we're going to go to our shape layer, we'll flip down the pull down, and we're going to create a shape from scratch. So we're going to just have After Effects kind of do it for us. So we're going to add a ellipse first. And I'm just going to take that ellipse path and I'm just going to scale it down to, you know, someplace less than 40. And then I'm going to add a fill, and we're going to make that fill color white, like a snowflake. And then let's make this not look like a circle. So let's do some interesting things with this. So the first thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to do a wiggle paths. So when I do wiggle paths, we have a few different options here. And one of them is corner or smooth, and I want to set that to smooth. And then we're going to set our size a little bit bigger and our detail to be a little bit less. So now we're getting, you know, an interesting little snowflake there. Now we have wiggles per second, because as you can see here, this thing is going to blob and move and shift while it comes down, which is okay, it'll work for us. So what we're going to do is we're going to set this down. Let's go to, you know, maybe 0.5. So it's going to slowly morph and move as the animation goes on, but it should be really subtle. If I hit and just do a quick RAM preview, you'll see it's pretty subtle, not too crazy. We could even go less than that if we wanted to. We could go to like a 0.2 or something like that. Now this isn't going to loop. If we go from one end to the other, this isn't going to loop, and that's okay because our particle system is going to hide that for us anyway. So you'll see how we do the loop at the end. So we have our particle and it's kind of oozing and moving around, we maybe need to change the size to a little bit smaller so that it stays inside of our work area here. So there's our little snowflake particle that we've created. So now we need to go back to our snow loop. We're going to go to our project panel and we're just going to pull snow into the scene. And as you can see, it's just kind of chilling there in the middle. We're going to remove it altogether. We're just going to turn the eyeball off. But now when we go to our particle set, we can use any of the different textured, so textured tri-polygon, textured quad polygon, square disc, or faded disc. We're going to use textured quad polygon, and that's basically a textured square, but our textured square has transparency. So we're going to use that textured quad polygon. And the reason why I don't use textured square is because you can see we don't get a rotation speed or initial rotation. So I want to use my textured quad polygon because that allows me to have a rotation speed. Then under the texture field, I have to go select my texture layer. So I'm going to click snow, and we can do scatter, but we can also do time sampling. And if we would make this really big for just a second, just so we can see it a little better, as we roll through this, you'll see that the particle is staying exactly the same, and we want it to alter. So what we want it to do is we don't want to set it to current, but we want to do from start. And so now each one of these, birth. So now each one of these should have a slightly different texture because every time they're born is when their texture movement starts. So now you can see we have our little snowflakes here, but they're way too big. So we're going to kick the size way down on these. So I'm going to go down to, 0.1 for right now, and let's see what 0.1 looks like. And then let's go back up to the top and let's turn our birth rate up. So we're starting to get it. Maybe need to be a little bit bigger. Let's go to 0.2. And I don't want my birth size and my death size to be different. I want them to stay the same size the whole time. And now we have a decent looking scene. If I do Shift 0 to do a RAM preview, we can take a look. And you can see we have some nice movement going on. We have something that resembles snow a little bit more. It's a little bit a different size, that sort of thing. So I'm liking how that looks so far, except we have too many particles in our scene. Let's go up here to our amount and just kick our amount down just a little bit, maybe to 3. And then we can pull the camera further back. So I'm going to take my position Z. I'm just going to pull this further away. And then I'm going to turn my time up to like 7. And so now we have, a nice little scene here. We're maybe getting a little bit too much of the birth up here, but it doesn't look horrid. So we can maybe move this back up again. Just to get rid of a little bit of that, so we have a little less of our emitter being shown. However, no one's going to be able to say, oh, that's where those particles were emitting from. Now, if you're seeing too much of the edge of these layers, you can turn down the rotation speed. So we can turn down our speed to, maybe like 15, and we can change our initial rotation if we want to. Just to find like our best case scenario. But I think that looks pretty dang good. So I'm just going to do a simple background and then show you how to loop it, but you could incorporate this into some real photography, or you could move the camera around if you want to, but we're just going to put in a simple background as well as loop this. So all I'm going to do here is I'm going to do a new solid. And I'm going to make sure that solid is the comp size. We can leave it black for now. I'm going to pull that to the bottom of my layer stack. In my effects panel, I'm going to right click and I'm going to do generate ramp. And this is just basically making a gradient for me. And so let's pick some like night sky colors. We'll do a blue to, maybe a nice dark color here. Maybe we do deep purple or something like that. We could change this one to something a little lighter if we wanted to. That's looking okay. And then we could finish it off with a vignette just to give it a little bit more focus if we wanted to. To do a vignette, this is really simple. Again, we're just gonna right click and we're gonna do new, solid. Again, we'll make this black. Vignettes are super easy in After Effects. All we're gonna do is click onto the ellipse tool and double click it, and it's gonna make an ellipse for us at the edges of our layer. We're gonna set it to subtract. Then we're going to hit MM on our keyboard to feather it out. So I'm just going to feather this a whole bunch and then do some mask expansion so that it just kind of expands around and is not quite so overbearing. Then if we wanted to, we could go in and we could do a generate fill, and we could take that fill and do like the deep purple-y color as well, or we could do like maybe a deep red, yellow, I don't know, something. Do not quite black, but something that just helps give a little bit more focus to it, just a subtle little effect in there. So we're starting to get some snow going on. So now we're going to go through and actually loop this particle system. And one piece of information becomes very important when we go to loop our particle system, and that is the longevity. Because the longevity is going to tell us where to start and stop our current layers. So it'll all make sense in a second here, and you can check out an old episode where we talked about this in detail. But longevity, so we have 7 seconds. So when we go from 0 until, not until the 7th second are we seeing a full screen of particles. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go in and I'm going to set a keyframe for my birth rate, and I'm going to go all the way from until 34 seconds, because that's 7 seconds before 31. So this is 7 seconds before the end of the timeline. So we're going to go to, or sorry, 24. So 24 on the dot, and I'm going to set a keyframe here of 0. Now I'm going to hit U on my keyboard, and I'm going to toggle hold keyframes here. Right click and do toggle hold, and basically this just makes it so this is consistently doing 3 and then does 0, and by the time we hit the end here, you'll see we have no particles left on the screen. They're all gone. So now what we can do is just duplicate this layer, and so I'm just going to do Control D or Command D on a Mac, and I'm going to take and I'm going to bring this particle system down here. So as the one is dying, this one is being started over, and you can see we have a seamless transition that you didn't know anything was happening. Now we still have a problem here though. We can't start our timeline until 7 seconds because that's our repetition point. So we're going to set that as our first point, and then we're going to go down to the end, and so we'll have a 24-second countdown. We can make our timeline longer if we wanted to compensate for that, but that will be a perfect loop. And if we go, if we hit Shift End and Shift Home, you will see we're 1 frame apart and we're doing a perfect loop. So we can export that loop out. So if you have any questions on how to make snow or other objects, or if you want to learn more about particles or anything like that, we have some other episodes where we talked about looping and particle systems, as well as you can leave comments on the website. Go over to CMD.tv/121. But now you know how to make snow. Well, this week's inspiration comes to you from an ad agency called Offspring. They're located in New York, so you can find them at offspringny.com. Now, they've done tons of different things that you've seen on TV. As I looked through their portfolio, they had a ton of stuff from Ford. But this piece that we're going to show you today is for the RED campaign to fight HIV and AIDS in Africa, as well as around the world, if my understanding is correct. And if this ad is true and actually possible, it will be amazing, let alone the visuals are really cool. Plus there's another one that we're not going to show that actually shows this on a billboard in Times Square, and I think they composited it all together, but it's still a really cool looking piece. So check out this awesome ad for Red. Well, this week's freebie is the snow loops from before. Yep, I'm putting the loops online for you, so if you don't have After Effects to be able to create those, I still am going to have those free loops for you online, so you can check those out on the website. As well as I'm going to have the project file on there for you. So there's a couple different variations in widescreen and in full screen, MPEG-4 as well as WMV, so it should work in all of the different presentation softwares you use. So make sure to head over to ChurchMediaDesign.tv to download those, as well as a ton of other freebies at CMD.tv/freebies. So check them out today. Well, thanks for tuning in to another edition of Church Media Design TV. Hopefully you learned something new today. If you have any questions or comments, the best place to do that is on the website. Head over to cmd.tv/121. You can leave comments and questions below, as well as you can find all of the links in the show notes on that page. I try to have all the resources that I talk about on there easy to find for you, so you can always go back to the show notes for any episode. So if you have any questions, you can do that there, as well as you can find me at twitter.com/cmdtv, facebook.com/bradley.zimmerman, or facebook.com/cmdtv for our show page. You can also send me an email, brad@churchmediadesign.tv. So as for me and my favorite bobbleheaded friends, we're saying, see you later.